Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Walker Independence. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So in the aftermath of Griffin's death last episode, it's like, cool, the last witness to what Tom did is gone, but there's still one more, and that's Abigail herself. So it is a situation of like, okay, so now we're going to have to keep you as far away from Tom. We need to keep you safe until we can find out what the Davidsons are and prove that the sheriff is as dirty as we know he is. So that's the only way forward. But Abigail reveals like, hey, he gave me a job offer, which the others are like, don't do it. As Hoyt says, literally do not put yourself in the lion's den. But she does it anyway. I think specifically seeing Liam's coffin really solidified it. Like, no, I need to do this. She was probably hesitant at first. She was working her way up to it, but she solidified. She resolved herself because it's like, no, I need to take you down. You need to pay for what you've done. So, let's kind of focus on her side of things really quickly. Basically, she got hired to be, obviously, because she knows the law so much, she's going to be working at the sheriff's office, and being on the inside allows her to do some things that she possibly wouldn't have been able to do on the outside. She's able to affect a lot of stuff, for one, Tom's plans, and actually help people at the same time. I will notice that I think it's interesting that Gus kind of had this look on his face, like when Tom was like, yeah, she's here for the job offer, and he was almost like, what? Because I think it's a thing of like, I mean, obviously it's got to rub you a little bit the wrong way. You're the deputy. You weren't really given the opportunity to be sheriff. There's going to be a little bit of that. But also it's like, okay, you're bringing someone in. You kind of didn't have this conversation with me. But I think it's also like he's a little suspicious of Abigail because of the whole Hoyt thing. It's like, right, the fact is you didn't see what he looked like, and or at least you gave this fake description. Like, he knows something's up there, so he just can't prove it. So maybe that, I think a lot of those elements come into play. It felt like he gave her kind of there's just a certain look in his eyes when Tom was talking about the job she was getting, which her first job is actually delivering a conviction notice to two sisters who are working together. Great that they're kind of at each other's throats, but Abby kind of feels bad when she realizes, like, right, them at each other's throats. The fact is they're going to lose their business and stuff like that. Just kind of some bad dealings, and apparently they got set up by a rough deal by someone. And so Abby looks into it and finds out the real reason why Tom is really pushing this eviction notice, because truth be told, an eviction like this would usually come months later, but it got pushed up because of Tom, because he wants that. Because it's not just their shop, they own like 200 acres of land, so it's like he wants that as well. So now Abby's like, okay, I want to help them out just to help them out, but also it's going to be me giving a middle finger to Tom, because I'm going to slow down whatever role he is, because he's got the whole cattle situation that he's stealing from the Reyes's. He's got the whole thing of him killing Liam and doing that for whatever reason, becoming sheriff. He's putting himself in this powerful position so that he could, maybe it is a situation of his family came from nothing and he wants to maintain their status. Who knows? We know because of last episode, he does have a complicated relationship with his father, where it's like nothing he does is ever good enough. So maybe he's going above and beyond just to prove himself, and maybe he's going to try and take control of the family. Maybe in a twisted way, this is him trying to get his father's attention and love. They're like, oh, nothing I ever do is good enough. Well, this will be the instance I'll prove my dad wrong or something. Maybe it's as simple as that. Either way, Abby wants to do more to help this family. So working with Kai and Kate, who was able to round up some other ladies in town, basically they were able to help the sisters. Well, it was Abby in particular who was able to help them put their issues aside, because she talks about her instance of like her and her sister. All we know is she's like, we let business get in our way. We used to be the best of friends. And in this moment when I need her most, she's gone. Because it is an instance of Abby can't rely on her sister right now because of just everything going on. She's Abby Walker now, so she can't really bring her sister into the fold, because probably like, right, bringing my sister up to date about all of this would just drag her into all of this. Or maybe it's just there's so much bad blood between them, she can't even reach out to her sister even if she wanted to, which she does. So she kind of has to handle this alone. Luckily, she has Hoyt and Callian, but that's still like, right, being able to rely on family, your best friend, your sister in this moment in time would probably be the thing that she'd want more so than anything. But that's not a possibility right now. And obviously, Kate being the snoop that she is, was like, oh yeah, you said you have heard that story about your sister. It's like, that was back from her. She's like, oh, back east. Kept it super vague. It's like, no. Abby knows exactly what she's doing, especially because Kate went looking in her room earlier. It's just like, what secrets do you have? And I love that she left for a second. In fact, is the camera stayed there for a good while longer. I was like, Kate's going to come back as soup, and she does, and ultimately doesn't find anything because Abby knows to make sure to keep everything kind of tucked away. But Kate didn't find what she was potentially hoping for because she's looking for a smoking gun, which she kind of literally finds one later on. Well, I think she found one, but she didn't really make too much of a fuss about it, and it kind of comes back full circle at the end of the episode. But at the very least, like, she probably didn't find anything as obvious as she thought she would. Or maybe she kind of did, but that's probably even more so why. She's always taken an interest in Abby because, like, once again, I do believe she's like a reporter or a journalist, and that has, Abby's piqued her interest, you know? So, and it's like, right, Abby continues to be this big enigma, and Abby might just be the missing piece to this puzzle she needs because she's trying to figure out the whole Tom and Davidson situation. Like, that's what she's here to look into, so. But either way, they were able to turn things around with the two sisters' businesses, and they even made up because of what Abby said. Because it's like, right, you guys may argue, but at the end of the day, you're blood related. You are sisters. That will and can never change, you know? So obviously, like, once again, we know family can be a good and bad thing, and this is one of those instances of leaning into, like, yeah, we might butt heads from time to time, but we are family through and through. There are instances where blood does matter, and there are other instances when blood doesn't matter, you know? But I also think it's kind of a nice little thing that Kai gets to work alongside Kate. Still hasn't confessed to her how he really feels, but I think this is probably a nice opportunity for him to kind of work alongside her. Probably gives him an opportunity to work up some courage to eventually tell her how he really feels. But what I really love too is when Tom came by, he saw the store completely empty. He's like, oh wow, Abby, you did it. You got them to move out. And you know, when they're packing up and move, it's like, oh no, they didn't pack up and move. They sold. It's like, sold what? Oh, everything. And they're getting new shipment in next week. So yeah, they don't even have to worry about it. But it's like, yeah, business was really good. They not only paid off their debts and a little bit more. So it's like, and I love Abby kind of twisting the knife a little deeper. It's like, man, they're going to remember you for this, Tom. It was their first week as sheriff, and you were able to, because it's like your eviction notice, you know, gave them the push they need. I was like, I love it. She's just rubbing it in his face, and she's like, this is what they'll remember you for. And he's like, yeah, we'll see about that, and kind of walks away. But Abby's just kind of nice because, well, so far the win column has been in more so Tom's favor, but now they've got one on the board because of this. And once again, like, they don't know what his full plan is, but they are chipping away at it by making it impossible for him to get this land. Granted, he probably will find another way. Like, he's smart enough and devious enough to probably find a roundabout way to get what he wants. So, I mean, obviously, he didn't even directly get the cattle from the Reyes's. He had Griffin and his people. So, there's always a possibility he might hire someone else. Which, really quickly focusing on the Griffin side of things, we do have that conversation between Tom and Gus. So there's this conversation of, like, Tom is trying to feel out what kind of person Gus is. Now, I'm assuming he's like trying to figure out, like, well, how far are you willing to go? You're willing to kill a man kind of in the situation you are, but Gus Solomon is like, right, it was me doing my job. It's like, I don't think the situation called for you to do, like, you could have fired a shot in the air and tell him, like, yo, if you run, but in his mind, it's like, right, Griffin was guilty of killing the previous sheriff. It's like, we can't just let a murderer go away. Like, I wonder what the rules of law back then were. I guess even then it's kind of like, right, killing a man in cold blood, no matter what he's been accused of. He wasn't, like, officially convicted of it. So, I mean, it worked out for Tom in the long run, but Gus pulled that trigger, and it's like, right, taking a man's life still sits with you, but he at least had the solace of knowing, like, right, I was doing my job. I was doing it in protection of this town. But like I said, little by little throughout this episode, Tom is really pushing the waters to be like, oh, like, how far are you willing to go? And even at one point, it's like, oh, turn out your pockets. He's like, oh, well, I have this, I have this knife. And it's like, yeah, I've had this for a long time. He's like, I would kill someone if they try to lay their hands on this. Gus, you empty out your pockets. And Gus had nothing in his pockets. He's like, see? Because he was trying to make a point of, when you die, like, what will people find on you? Because there was like the pocket watch from Griffin, and stuff like that. It's like, what would they find on you? And Gus would kind of have nothing on him. And he's like, yeah, but if you wanted to kind of take something from Griffin, no one would really know. But he's like, no, thanks. He said, oh, that was a test. It's like, he's trying to see if he could trust and bring, like, is Gus such a stickler that he could get Gus on his side? I don't think so. I do believe he's being misled and misguided by the sheriff. Tom's a bad influence, but I think honestly, Gus is a good person at heart. It's just he thought he was doing the right thing, killing Griffin, but also it's like, right, this guy killed the sheriff. Like, he truly, wholeheartedly believes that, but that's because Tom created that narrative. Like, Griffin was there, but he didn't actually kill Liam. It was Tom, so... Later on, when he goes to visit, was it Ruby? The lady that Griffin had a relationship with. But it's like, no, I never made him pay, so why would I make him pay, like, take anything from him now that he's gone? But she's like, I knew Griffin. He might not have been, like, the best person. Yeah, he had his issues, but he was not a murderer. That didn't stop you from killing him in cold blood. For him, it's like, but I was doing my job. And for her, it's like, what'd you expect coming here that I've kind of welcomed you with open arms? It's like, no, you killed someone I deeply cared about. And the fact is, you got it all wrong. And I think that is going to make Gus reapproach things, because it's like, right, she's certain about this, so maybe he's going to be like, I'll keep this, maybe there is more to this. So that the team doesn't know if they can trust Gus yet, because Callian was trying to bring him into the fold last episode before he ended up killing Griffin, but I think in the end they will eventually get him on their side. It's just a matter of him continuing to investigate and them like crossing paths and like, all right, we're gonna have to fill you in. Same thing for Kate at the end of the episode, asking, Abigail who she really is, just as Abigail is asking her, because it's like, right, someone had to go snooping to her stuff, and it was, Kate. So, or not unless it wasn't Kate, not unless it was like secretly Tom or something like had snuck in there to do that too. But we know Kate went looking, but who's to say who else didn't go looking as well? So those are some really interesting sides of things. But on the flip side, there's a whole situation with Hoyt and Callian's side of things, where he went to go at the Reyes's and trying to get some information from them about maybe their connection to the Davidsons, and even Callian's doing the same thing, because Callian was told by their tribe leader, was it Taza, that they should try, because they have a decent relationship with the Reyes's. The Reyes's are the only one, Francis in particular, Lucia's dad, is the one they have like because I think it might also be that mentality of like, well, they're kind of outsiders to some extent, so maybe they have that commonality, but I don't think the Reyes's kind of get the probably same treatment like Callian and his people do. So I think that Callian and his people like are like more on the outside than like even the Reyes's family. But either way, they do not like Hoyt well. So they know about the whole him and Lucia thing, probably to some extent. It's probably still like a deeper, darker secret about how far that's going along, but Hoyt, I guess, kind of gets brought over almost in like a boyfriend capacity. Maybe not. But he's not welcome in that family. The fact is, Callian, the moment he shows up, the fact is he's bilingual. The fact is that he, we have no idea how many languages he knows, because he knows at least 3. His native tongue, he knows English, and he knows Spanish. And it's like, oh my God, you get the last scoop. And Hoyt's like, why the hell does he get the last scoop? It's like, because he's got manners, and good manners goes a long way. Francis even pointing out, oh my God, your Spanish is definitely better than Hoyt. Hoyt's like, I'm sorry, like, I know a little Spanish, just English is easier. So he's getting shown up in front of everyone, especially the woman he loves, and they're kind of bonding over Callian, and the horse that, Hoyt couldn't break, Callian broke, so he kind of stormed off. But he ended up getting later on kidnapped by Jacob, who was like the guy from the first episode he had screwed over. Because like I said, I think he ran into him like in the second episode, or maybe partway through the first episode. I think he ran into him again. And it's like kidnapped him this time, brought him in front of like the entire time. He's like, all right, I'm a sinner. I've done some terrible stuff. I've broken a few hearts along the way. Looks at some of the ladies and kind of winks. There's one lady almost like, ugh, but the other ladies are kind of giggling. Oh, like, oh, he's such a bad boy type of thing. But yeah, they don't want to, even the guy Jacob said, yeah, I've forgiven you for sleeping with my wife. It's like, okay, that's not what this is about. basically they sell whiskey to towns, and they've been robbed the past few times. So it's like, right, we want to stop these criminals. We need a criminal element to help us, and he's the biggest criminal they know, the con artist that he is. So he inadvertently ends up helping them because it's his way to kind of pay them back for, like, right, I did kind of like grift all of you. So, but it kind of goes sideways, and the robbers get away with the whiskey. Interesting development is, cool, they're robbers that he's familiar with. In fact, he trained them up. He's like, I'm the one that took them from robbing coaches to robbing trains. And now look back at it. Now they're back to doing this. Oh, they've fallen so far without me. It's like, shut up, Hoyt. But him and Callian have to work together. Callian's the one that kind of put him back on the path, like helping these people. It's like, you had an opportunity for redemption. This was your redemption. You're just going to run away. He's like, I see the good person you are in. Like, yeah, you've probably been in jail a couple of times, but you still made the sacrifice of going to jail last episode just because it meant helping Abby, because you know that you and me are the only ones she can rely on. And because of that, I see that a good person you can be if you choose to be. So he decided, like, right, I know them enough that, right, let's go track these people down. So they managed to avoid killing any of them, so I think that speaks volume. Granted, that means they could always come back and be a nuisance later, but two of them got shot, like, in the arm or whatever. Like, Hoyt made sure not to do any fatal blows, but who knows if they're going to make a quick recovery or not. The main guy, Jack, got knocked out, and then the other two ran away. Your boy Callian coming in clutch, hitting like the brake on the wagon was pretty dope. And it's just like, I don't know, it felt like that kind of like slow-mo thing you'd set, like kind of like a focus mode you see in like a video game, just like everything kind of slowed down to a crawl. And it's just almost like you could almost feel that moment of him just kind of breathe, like either holding his breath in that moment or just like breathing in and slowly breathing out type of thing. But hitting the mark, and they come out victorious. And because of it, hey, Hoyt comes out, the good guy. He even is able to return get the alcohol to Independence, and even take the money back to the town. And so there is this situation that I think this kind of puts Callian and Hoyt in a better place, because he's like, yeah, I know you didn't have to help me, but he's like, yeah, I did, because you needed help. You know, showing what kind of person he is. And it's like, yeah, it's saying they're not friends, but I think slowly but surely, they're going to become frenemies to some extent, I think. They're probably going to definitely butt heads a lot more going forward, but it was a nice thing, and I think we're seeing that turnaround for Hoyt. Obviously, it means a lot. Obviously, it's very reflective of Hoyt and Walker as well. Like, obviously, his descendant down the road. But yeah, that descendant of his was like, right, he made some mistakes, but at the end of the day, he was a very good-natured person, too. So I guess it kind of runs in the family. Once again, we never really got to know about his actual family, but we know Hoyt and Walker, like, just the way Abby talked about it. Like I brought up, I want to say last episode, he didn't come from, or might even been the first episode, I talked about the fact that he didn't come from a good family, and there were complications on that front. But him being there for Jacob's dad, because he had heard from Jacob, like, his dad is sick. It's like, oh, yeah, your dad always treated me. I was always a big fan of your dad. I always liked your dad. And it's like, yeah, my dad always liked you, too. I never had the heart to tell him that you were a swindler and a con man. So he comes back there, and he's there for Jacob's dad, saying, like, I know you're going to face what you're facing, and you're scared. I mean, you know, but there's got to be a point where you stop running, and you got to be brave and face what's coming ahead, you know? And being there by his side, holding his hand, it was a very beautiful moment. While on the flip side, Callian's got his own issues, because like Francis and Taza ended up talking, but it was supposed to be up to, because he's the one that kind of brought this all together. So it was supposed to be Callian who had those discussions, but now it's a conversation of, well, like, who are you really, like, you were helping someone, yeah, but were they more important than your own people? So now he's kind of being tugged between, like, right, he wants to help out Abby, and he ended up helping out Hoyt, but at what cost? Like, his people going to feel like you're not really there for them. I don't know whether it's a situation where he might be in a position where they're trying to set him up to be the next leader, and it's like, how can we trust you to always put our interests first when you're helping other people, specifically helping people outside? Because that's how he was able to get them to kind of, like, join with this whole Davidson thing, was by saying, like, like, hey, like he might be an enemy of ours. We need to be careful because whatever he's going to do here, he might come after us as well, you know? So, but now it's like, right, like you got to find out like who's your heart really lie with. And so I think that's going to be a complication for Callion going forward, torn between his loyalties to wanting to help Abby and Hoyt, you know, wants to do the right thing, but he's also got to put his people first too. So that juggling of that is probably going to be a big part of his story going forward. So it's definitely going to be really interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.